Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Flushman. I am president of the Loyola University Black Alumni Association, and I want to welcome you to our fifth installment of the Black Life Speaker Series. We have gathered, we have we have a great event in store for you tonight. We have brought together a group of highly accomplished entrepreneurs who are doing great things in their particular businesses. I always like to start off these events by thanking everyone involved because we do this work for our love of Loyola and our desire to make it a better place for everyone, specifically Black students and Black alumni. I want to take a moment and thank our friends or the friends of the board, our sponsor, Paul Davidovich and John and the Business Leadership Hub. They've done an amazing job of partnering with us. And then there's so many other people who have been involved, specifically, for example, the advancement department and alumni relations, and then also several faculty members and the National Alumni Advisory Board. We've all kind of have been partnering with these individuals and these departments, and it's been an amazing journey. And then also outside of Loyola, we've also been working extensively with Northwestern, to establish a partnership, and that's going extremely well. Next, of course, I have to thank our amazing board as well as our committee members. None of this would be possible without these incredible individuals who have been working tirelessly to move the university's justice initiatives forward. And so, of course, we have to thank them. Next, I would like to transition us to the reason we're here tonight, which is the Black Life Speaker Series. The series is our crown jewel, it is our flagship event. The series name is derived from the function of a black light, and a black light is designed to illuminate things that are not seen. And many alumni feel that it is a metaphor for our time at Loyola. The purpose of this series is to illuminate the life and the experiences of Black alums by highlighting how they have taken the university's mission and principles into their careers, professions, and affiliations. With that, I would like to introduce our moderator tonight, uh, Rachel Felix Blackman, who is better known as Rocky. Rocky is our VP of Member Relations. She is a senior manager at Amazon Web Services. And with that, I would like to turn over the program to our moderator tonight, Rocky Blackman.
Thank you, Karen, for that introduction. Can you let me know if you can hear me okay? Yes, thank
Yes.
you. So tonight, thank you everybody for joining us for our Black Light Speaker Series. Today's session is going to be about Black entrepreneurship, from challenges to champions, the trials of Black entrepreneurship. I want to start off first by properly introducing our wonderful panelists. And I'm going to start with Genesis Emery. Genesis Emery is an entrepreneur, a speaker, chief marketing officer, and philanthropist. Genesis is an influential, game changing female entrepreneur. She's recognized as a serial entrepreneur, speaker, and global philanthropist. She also uplifts aspiring women entrepreneurs with the content from her digital community. Genesis also works with special needs children with unique medical challenges, as well as being the president and chief marketing officer at Blueprint House Agency. Her recognized talents and her impactful business leadership has brought her into a position to speak to several women's events. While doing all of this, now listen, she is also the mother of a 6-year-old son. Thank you, Genesis, so much for joining us for this Black Light Speaker Series.
Hi, everybody.
The next on our panel is Darren Williams Jr. He's the owner and CEO of Embassy International. Darren Boomer Williams Jr. is an American author, businessman, and retired professional basketball champion. A native of Detroit, Michigan, he's a principal owner and chairman of a Sicilian-based sports marketing consultancy, Embassy International. Williams competed 10 years abroad after completing his tenure as a student athlete here at Loyola University with the men's basketball team. Boomer has since authored Basketball Secrets, 10 Secrets to Becoming a Professional Basketball Player, promoting global entrepreneurship within sports. Now, also, he's a motivational speaker, philanthropist. Williams has acquired his master's in human resources from the University of Arizona, while boasting a bachelor's in communications from the prestigious, of course, Loyola University, Chicago. Thank you so much for joining us, Darren. Next on the panel, we have Damian McSwine. He's the Powered by Nature Herbs CEO, certified wellness and nutrition consultant, and former pro athlete. Damian is one of the world's fastest rising wellness authors and speakers. In addition to writing and speaking on health, he is also the founder of Powered by Nature Herbs, a natural plant-based supplement company. His primary areas of concentration in relation to nutrition and wellness are detoxification, personal development, athlete nutrition, high blood pressure, vascular integrity, weight loss, and more. Prior to his current status, Mr. McSwine also enjoyed a successful professional career in basketball. Damian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good to be here. I'm happy to be here, especially with you.
So there's no secret here. Damian and I were classmates at Loyola at our time at the university. So Darren, if you could turn on your camera and mic as well, we're going to get right into the questions. I have a lot of them and people are eager to hear the very first one. And I'm going to start with you answering, Genesis. Please tell us how you got started in your respective businesses. So Genesis, I'll start with you.
Sure, absolutely. So for me, originally, when I first graduated from college, I worked in marketing, but I had this big dream of being a spokesmodel and a media host, which I did do. I hosted a lot of events throughout Chicago and also in California for beauty and fashion. And I represented a lot of clients as an ambassador and also spokesmodel for their products and services. However, once I became a mom, I realized I wanted to do something that was going to be more sustainable, more business driven, and also more long term in terms of creating revenue for the life that I had mapped out for myself. So with that being said, I created my own digital marketing and PR company. I started speaking at women's events and conferences. I started speaking on TV and across platforms in the country on entrepreneurship and business. And I wanted to give women like myself a voice who are not only entrepreneurs, but also moms, to help them create opportunities that were going to be sustainable, give them education that they needed to produce their goals and accomplish whatever they set out to do, and also still being able to create that active balance throughout their initiatives and their career desires.
That is impressive, Genesis. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to move on to Damian next. Can you tell us how you got started in your businesses?
Yeah, during my career, during my professional career of playing, I've traveled to about 50, 60 countries. And during that time, during the downtime, what I would do is study these cultures, these foreign cultures, the things that they would do to elongate years and the things that they would do to truncate years on their life. So I really got into the nutrition, into the life longevity aspect of these different cultures. And what I found was there was distinct differences between what we were doing in the States and what people were doing abroad in different countries. So we would practice, sometimes we had 2-a-days, but in between that time, I would be out in the community, whether it was in Lebanon, whether it was in Turkey, whether it was in Germany, whether it was in Venezuela, no matter where it was, I would be studying and taking notes and things like that. And so eventually what happened is I suffered an injury where they were going to amputate my foot. They were going to amputate my foot. Yeah. They were going to amputate my foot. And I had to use everything that I had learned on nutrition to keep my foot well enough to where they didn't amputate it. They did operate 5 times during that. That was a scary moment too. I was out for 2 years and they end up putting a titanium toe joint in my big toe. So there's like titanium and plastic. It's mostly not even almost like an artificial big toe almost. So what happened is I came back to play after that when they was just basically saying, look, you can't even think about playing. You need to think about walking. So I beat the odds and I began to write books on these things. I was always a healthy individual, always healthy. Everybody always came to me for information. But the more I began to study, the more I began to share. I went back to Cornell for plant-based certification, Cornell University. So I did that, so that people wouldn't be able to say, oh, you don't know this, you're just winging it. And from there, continue to lecture, do documentaries on these things, learn from some of the world's foremost nutritionists in natural healing and health. And then after that, I began to continue. People started asking for, okay, well, what can we take? What can we eat? And then that's when we created poweredbynatureherbs.com to fill the void of where there were so many synthetic nutritional products. I wanted to provide natural ones. And so this is where we are today.
Wow, that sounds like it's more than just a business for you. It sounds like a ministry.
It is. It's a life purpose.
Yes.
Never get tired.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. Darren, let's move on to you. How did you get started?
Well, first, good evening to everyone. Glad that you guys are here. Definitely appreciate your time because time is our most valuable asset. How I got started in my business, I started Embassy International. It's a Sicilian-based organization that provides international opportunities for athletes. So we help players get new agent representation. We help players get professional basketball opportunities overseas, international scholarships, and we quickly have become one of the only organizations that provide those opportunities during COVID-19. How I got started is that I played 10 years professional basketball after leaving Loyola University of Chicago in 2009. Haven't been to 50 countries, but I've been to around 25, 26 countries. And one thing that I noticed is that, while you're playing, you have so much downtime. And originally, I put my business acumen into music because I always had this desire to conduct business. But through my time in playing, I discovered that, my skill for just connecting people and bridging the gaps. So while I was going to different countries, players would call me and say, man, how did you end up here? How did you get this contract? How did you get this sponsorship? And I would connect players internationally. And upon me winning a championship in Sicily, my very last year in 2017, I found myself transitioning more into entrepreneurship and just using my gifts and my talents. So originally, like I said, we started in Sicily, in Palermo, Sicily. And to this day, we have worked with over 1,500 teams in over 40 countries overseas. So I just wanted to use all of our talents as much as possible. And I found that because I was helping people just move to the next level, I decided to make a business out of it. So, that's how I got started.
That's really smart. Thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move into the next question. And the next question is, how has Loyola's education prepared you for entrepreneurship? And I'm going to start with you, Damien.
Loyola's education prepared me. Well, I think I was kind of, because of the parents that I had, I would say that I was already kind of prepared for entrepreneurship. But what it did was, you got to understand, coming from Detroit, we're the quote unquote blackest city in America. We're close to 90%. Black people. So I was used to that environment, and coming to Loyola, what it did was it allowed me to intermingle, to meet different people. I've got friends from Loyola that are heads of hospitals, that are big time lawyers that are all doing a lot of different things. So what I had to do was break that cycle where I came from, which is dealing with and communicating with just all Black people all the time, to different races of people, and understanding where they come from and who they are. And it allowed me to have more empathy for some of the things that they were going through, things that I could understand and know how to deal with individuals. I learned about these different cultures, and people were surprised that when I would go abroad, some of the people that I met at Loyola from these respective countries, or having lineage from these countries, I knew a lot about these different places, and these people were surprised to know it. So it helped me in that way to understand people and be able to communicate effectively with individuals.
That's amazing. I agree. I had that same experience. I agree with that. Genesis, let's go with you. How do you feel that Loyola's education prepared you for entrepreneurship? You're on mute, Genesis. Thanks.
Just like Damien, I come from a family of entrepreneurs as well, and I grew up helping to manage and operate my family's business in Flossmoor. So I knew that at some point I was going to want to do that. But Loyola was more of a constant reinforcement that I could accomplish my goals and that I would have the actual academic business process down to be able to do that. Many times from what I've seen throughout my career is that many people have these great ideas and strategies, but they don't always know how to implement them. Loyola taught me how to be able to do that and how to put all those different pieces together in terms of having the communication background, the marketing background, the business side down, how to be able to connect with different people in different groups. It taught me that. And it was also a big reinforcement as well that I could do it. When I was at Loyola, I didn't have a traditional college student experience. I was literally taking 18 to 21 credit hours per semester. I worked full time. I also maintained several internships during that time as well. So I was really dedicated, very much committed to all my goals, but I learned how to be able to create, what I wanted to do for myself so I could be able to accomplish what I had my hopes on and what I set after. Loyola was able to help me do that, and it really taught me how to be an adult and how to flourish and create my own foundation from what I wanted to do in my career.
Yep, I echo that same sentiment. Loyola does certainly give you the tools. You may come into things with the acumen for it, but it gives you the tools and the preparedness to actually execute on those goals. So I definitely agree with that. Darren, I'm going to come to you. How about you? How do you feel that Loyola's education prepared you?
Well, just like Damien myself, I am a former resident, native of Detroit, Michigan. So I also come from a family of entrepreneurs, and one of the biggest challenges that I faced is, like you said, coming from an all Black city, then coming to Loyola and interacting with different races, different nationalities, people of different backgrounds, learning new cultures as well. And it wasn't necessarily the classroom information, if you will, but it was the interaction with people. And it prepared me tremendously. One of my first trips out of the country was playing for Loyola in our trip to Central America. We went to Costa Rica and Guatemala. That experience opened up my eyes to a point to where, there are people who live differently outside of the United States. So once we came back, it was just a total shift. And I'm extremely appreciative of having a scholarship coming from Detroit, and then being able to go around the world and fit in everywhere I've been to. I've lived in Europe, I lived in South America, and also, in the United States. But one more thing that I do want to say is that sports, the lessons that you learn from sports also can contribute to the education facet, if you will, because there's a particular culture at Loyola. There's a culture of honor, of prestige, like the motto, like go out and set the world ablaze. Everything that you learn at Loyola will be applicable in your life for years to come. So I don't want to say that it's just the educational part, just from the classroom, but just the overall interaction and experience while being at Loyola, who made me who I am today, or contributed to who I am today.
That's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective.
Thank you.
The next question is actually just for you, Genesis. I want to know from your perspective, what did you think Loyola could do to be more inclusive for business students and specifically entrepreneurial alums like yourself?
I would say really take the time out to get feedback and gather opinions from the students to find out what it is that we can do to be more valuable for them, and just kind of what we can do to offer more based upon the goals that they are setting to accomplish. So as an example of that, I know when I decided to become an entrepreneur, I was in my last semester at Loyola and I was taking a capstone course, and that's what led to it. If it weren't for that course, I don't know exactly when that journey would have started. But thankfully, my professor, Patricia Falcons, she encouraged me to start my own brand or my own business as a part of her course curriculum. So I think that, like, for students that don't have opportunities to courses like that, or it's not a part of their major or minor, reach out to them, find out what it is that they want to do outside of Loyola, not just during their time there as a student. Find out if the programs, associations, the groups and clubs that are available are enough for them, or if they're looking for something more that the university can contribute to what their career objectives are. And also just kind of find out how they're feeling as well. I think sometimes students may be a little bit intimidated to really tell you what's on their mind, or if they feel like they're a part of the culture, or if they feel like they're getting, what they paid for or what they find value in. So take the time to build those long-term relationships with them and keep that open door policy open. Whether they're a student, they're a graduate, they're an intern, keep that relationship constantly evolving and constantly growing, so that those students know they can trust you and they can come to you when they have any questions or concerns. We just want to learn from you as a mentor.
I like that. Darren or Damien, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that? Do you feel like Genesis got it on the head?
Yeah, I agree with her. Got it.
All right, thanks, guys. The next question is specifically for Darren. Darren, I'm sure you could talk about this for a long time, but we have maybe 5 minutes. But what are some of the major challenges or roadblocks that you've experienced as a Black entrepreneur?
So first, I don't want to take too much of your time, but when I first saw this question, it was something that that applied to me because one of the things that stood out is the business of business is business. And if you are foreign to business, once you make the transition, if you're not familiar with the jargon, the terminology, if you're not familiar with the actual culture, if you don't have a spirit of service, once you get to the transactions, it could be extremely difficult. So that was one of the hurdles that I faced first, is that I had to get a business mentor, and I just learned so much. I read so many books, watched movies, and it just contributed to my current successes. The second thing is trust. So in the United States, there's this culture where it could be like a black and white thing, right? And it's not natural. It's like a program, if you will. So if you're African American and you want to conduct business, sometimes you could be shunned upon as not being articulate enough to even conduct business, not knowing how to dress properly, shaking someone's hand, having a quality product that you that you can sell, or having a quality service that you could distribute and allow people to use, and then for you to capture it financially. In my industry, since I'm helping both teams and I'm helping players, as a Black man, usually there will be a Caucasian man who will be in a position like me, who could who can be the mediator between a player and be a mediator between a team and a league. But when they see African American man, I know that I'm one of the few. So I want to make sure that I dress the part. I want to make sure that I look the part. I want to show my intelligence as a person, but I also want to show my business acumen to let them know that when they do business with me, they're in great hands. The trust factor was in a bigger sense something that occurred more frequently, but because I've done good business, because of my clients giving me good testimonials and letting people know that, look, if you go to Darren, if you go to Embassy International, you'll be in good hands. That pretty much eliminated it. So for me being in this actual position, it's really a blessing, because not too many people who look like me are in this position. So now I can let, you know, in the business world, let them know that it is more like me that are here, that are coming. And it's okay to do business with us.
So you would say the main thing that has probably maybe impeded in some aspects of having more success would be the lack of trust with
Exactly.
between non-Black and Black entrepreneurs or Black business people.
Exactly.
Do you have any specific examples of where maybe you might have lost a client or a deal or some sort of relationship as a result of that distrust?
Well, first, I don't believe in losing. I really don't.
Fair enough. Were there any lessons that you learned as a result? I'll frame it that way. There are no losses, there are only lessons.
So I'll give you an example. Because we have a direct connection with teams, I found that Caucasian players gave me they were quick to do business with me because I guess they saw the value. The biggest challenge with African Americans is like, all right, they're probably used to a Caucasian male in this position. So I'm not really sure if you can do the job or not. So that's where the trust issue came. One of my players, he sat out for about 2 years. He played overseas in Australia. And because he didn't have his film, he could not get anywhere. So he went to all of the major agencies that you could go to or representatives, and they did not work with him. So when he came to our firm, when he came to us, he just let me know, like, listen, I've been to everybody. They couldn't help me. I just want to take a shot on you. So when I looked at that, I said, man, I was the last resort. But even though I was the last resort, I were able to pull through and provide him his first job in 2 years without film through our system. So getting his player testimonial was just very important because once we put that out there, we had an influx of players who wanted to work with us. And now we're working with NBA. So that's just an example on how trust could be, it could be seen here, right? But all it takes is an opportunity to show what we can do. And once we do great work, it's off to the races.
That's interesting. You actually shed light on something that I didn't think we would unpack in this interview, and that's distrust amongst ourselves, right? Just between our own culture. So I think we'll have opportunities to go down that path a little bit more with some of these other questions. But thank you so much for sharing that candid experience. That's really important. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the next question, you actually get a chance to answer this again, Darren. I'm going to pose this to both you and Damien. Because both of you have conducted business abroad. Both of you had that opportunity of traveling around the world and learning how to do business outside of the United States. I wanted you to kind of describe your experience as a Black man and entrepreneur in the US versus in other countries. And Damien, I'm going to start with you.
Let me first by saying that, Rocky, you know me, okay? You probably know me better than anybody on this thread. The thing about myself, I think it's important to give context to this. My mother is from Greenwood, Mississippi. And when you go into Greenwood, Mississippi, it says the cotton capital of the world, the Delta of Mississippi. My mother went to Delta State University the year before they offered the scholarships. The National Women's Player of the Year, my mother played ball. The coach at Delta State had some kind of thing where she was making the girls shell peas or something, like picking peas. And my mother said that the European descent girls, the white girls, they didn't have to do it. But her and her high school teammate, which eventually went on to be an Olympian, they had to do it. So my mother's one of those people where if she feels like something is wrong, it's over with. So she left, and that team went on to be in the national championship, and the coach became like the greatest NCAA coach of all time. I'm saying that for a point that, I was raised with all this knowledge of racism. I used to live in Mississippi for a year. So I've always wanted to make it as myself, not playing a game, not having to do anything. Either you're going to deal with me or you're not going to deal with me. I'm not really changing who I am. There's nothing wrong with who I am, okay? So my point is that in the United States, For us, it's more red tape that you have to go through than out of the country. Outside of the country, execution and production is revered. Whereas in the United States, you've got to go through many other things before you can even get to execution and production. For example, if I want to get a product into a store in the Dominican Republic or in Central America or South America, it's more of a conversation with the owner of the store. What does this product do? We're going to give it a try. If I want to get a product in the store in the United States, there's going to be a long list. There's going to be a long line. It's going to be, okay, is all of this tested? It's going to be a lot of different things that you have to go through. So the major difference for me, which is what I call the United States, which is the headquarters of the matrix, there's a lot of different programs. There's a lot of different things going on that are unbeknownst to us, that I wouldn't say they're against us, but we got to go through those things. Whereas outside of the country, look, when you go into a bank for a loan, it's about the numbers. It's not about what skin colors, none of that. Because in the Dominican, most of us we all look the same. So who you gonna do that against? Like, what are you gonna say? Oh, this is Gonzalez and this is Vasquez. So there's nothing to, so it's all about who qualifies at that point. So I have a deeper appreciation for the way things are done. But I do respect, of course, I still respect the United States because it's still a little bit less unorganized in these kinds of places than in the United States. But it's still about, can you get the job done? Okay, we're not going to take you through all of that red tape. So that's the major difference for me. I still do business as myself in the United States, but as you know, it's more online, all that. I'm not going to be going through all these dog and pony shows for nobody. So it's just like, here's the product. I've done all the certifications. I've done everything. I deal with it every day with people online. Like Darren mentioned, certifications and who are you to say this and that. That's the only reason I went to Cornell. Nobody outside of the country is asking me that. What did you do? Nobody's asking me that. Look, the information is the truth defends itself. I don't have to, all you can do is just go look it up. If you don't believe what I'm saying, you can just look it up if you're that concerned. So don't worry about where all this stuff came from. You can look and see if I'm telling the truth or if I'm not. And that's what you get less of outside of the country, especially as a person with high melanin.
So you mentioned that the United States has more red tape than other countries. Let me ask you this. Have you ever observed any of your non-Black business peers trying to accomplish some of the same things that you're trying to accomplish who did not have to go through that same amount of red tape? Do you think some of that red tape has something to do with, like you said, the amount of melanin that you carry?
What I witnessed is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's directly to that because I don't like to, cast aspersions or make excuses for different things. What I would say is the reason why many of their paths was different is because their families were already established, okay, in certain instances. So they had connections, they had allies in place to help them do a lot of things, where most of us, we're coming from our knuckles. We're knuckling up to the top. We're the first ones in college. My mother was the first one, but my mother's a post office worker. My mother, they say go to school, get a job and all that kind of stuff. So we don't have those resources. So I would see a lot of these guys, like one of my teammates, his parents owned the Brown's Chicken when we was at college, and another one, it was on the board of trade. They were already doing stuff already. So they would be like 10 years ahead of me. Now I got to wait till I'm 38, 37 to get financially in a position where I'm good, where they could have did it at 28 or 30, because they're already. So in that sense, because I'll say that we lack the education and we don't have many of us in position. So it's a lot of guesswork, which will go into another question. I think that you were going to ask me before later on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Look, you actually scratched the surface of equity just by saying that statement where some people have an advantage earlier on in life than you do. that's where we talk about equity and how can we level the playing field. And so that's going to be something we talk about towards the end of this in one of our other questions. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's very powerful. Darren, same for you. I know you're a Sicilian-based company, so that's a little bit different.
For
Can
sure.
you share your experience and how you feel like business is different in the U.S. versus in Sicily or wherever else you've been doing business?
So when I started Embassy International in Sicily, it's probably one of the easiest things that I was able to accomplish, only because I was used to living in another country. Um, I learned the Italian language, the actual culture, and to some degree, even though I'm an African American man, I'm a Black man. The culture, I felt that. Sometimes when I come back home, I would feel like a foreigner in my own country. You understand? So I had to start over almost every time. As far as what Damien said, he literally hit every nail on the head, especially when you're coming from Detroit, right? We call it the bottom, like we call it the mud. That's what we call it, slang jargon. But I just want to just be real with you guys, because I have to let you know that for people to be in a position like myself and Damien is very, very, very rare. So if we're just scratching the surface on becoming successful or experiencing success, what about all the people that you don't know? What are they doing? So you can understand that it could be extremely difficult for people, especially African Americans in the United States. It's more easier now than ever, because it's almost like entrepreneurship is like this fad. But before it was a fad, we were literally taught, like, all right, you go to school, you get a degree, you get a good job, you start a family. But obviously you see that hasn't, that has worked before, but it is a new age now. As far as we're doing business internationally, just like what Damien said, like, if you have the numbers and you walk into a business and you interact, most likely you are going to interact with the owner. That's the one thing I love about in my industry, especially with connecting with different teams or heads of different agencies, is that I don't have to go through all of the little men. I can go straight to the top and I can communicate as a business professional, just like they are. In the United States, you may have to go through the red tape. You may have to know somebody who knows somebody just to get in the door. And maybe that person is make believe. They could appear to be the person in charge, but really they could be the laundry guy. So I would say in America, like I said, America is a business period. But if more African Americans had the chance to travel, to discover their purpose and their talents, they would know that if they went to different places around the world, it would practically be easier to conduct a business, because other people know our story more than we do. I think we're getting the shine right now because we have been brave enough to jump on a plane, cross the waters, learn different languages, play sports. Who else do you know that's play sports? Like less than 2% of the world play professional sports. So we are one of the lucky few. My only hope is that we can continue to set an example for the next generation, so that they won't have to say, all right, in order for me to be successful in the United States, I have to be a rapper, I have to be a basketball player. Yeah, I want to be an author. Yes, I want to be a business owner. I want to be a philanthropist in my city, in my neighborhood. I want to make a change. But as you know, like I said, it begins with culture. So it all starts now with us. I hope that answers your question.
It absolutely does answer the question. Yeah, I think I heard you say something in the last question that said, did you say the business of business is business?
The business of business is business. So and you know what? It could be quite difficult. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me give you an example, because I have to be real. We're at Loyola. I know we're all polished, but this might be the only chance where people get a chance to really see what's in the mind of African Americans, right? So in our minds, it's like, all right, we don't know about credit, financial stability, but we do know how to hustle. We do know how to take something very small and just make it huge. Where we are from, especially because he's from Detroit, so he knows, right? The people who used to get money in Detroit was the drug dealers. But if you looked at the scenario of a drug dealer, you would see that they could easily be the head of a Fortune 500 company, right? Because they understand the spirit of service. And I this is what I teach to my mentees. Even though it's drugs, right? They're more focused on the business and they're more focused on the product and it being good so that they can continue to make finances, right? Now the simple trick is applying that to yourself, like treating yourself as that, or creating a service or a product. And that's where we get hustling from. So if it goes from cutting hair, it can go from selling sandwiches. It can go from mowing lawns, shoveling snow. It can start your own t-shirt company. And that's why I have a lot of credit for our community, because even though we might not be super polished and wear suits, we do have the ability to see our value in ourselves and what we do great. And then we know how to capitalize off of it. You understand? But if one thing that we're going to know that while we are in the United States is the red, white, and blue, is that if you have the ability to have a great product or be a great product, you could earn for the test of time. Now it's just about learning the financial literacy aspect. Now it's about learning about how to, your talent is this loaf of bread, right? And then it's the slices, like okay, yeah, you play basketball, like you play the sport, but what about becoming an agent? What about becoming a coach? What about becoming a trainer? What about writing a book? What about doing your podcast? You know what I mean? So it's about taking what you have and just multiplying it so that you can profit for as long as you have the vision to.
I love that. And that actually starts one of the later questions we're going to have. So I keep that thought of how people can kind of capitalize on their strengths. The next question we have here is for Genesis, and I am keen on hearing your response because I am a female entrepreneur on the side. So I would love to hear your response to this. But what type of impact do you feel that Black women entrepreneurs have on the business world? And why is it important to include women?
Absolutely. So many of you guys may have seen that according to Forbes last year, Black women entrepreneurs were the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the country, which is huge. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19 last year, those statistics may have changed. But nonetheless, we are a group that thrives. And since the beginning of time, we've always known how to put things together and how to balance and manage so many things effortlessly at one time, from raising kids, starting our own businesses, from being wives and mothers and mentors and friends and being leaders and still being able to put a smile on our faces, stay prayerful and still be purposeful within our missions. And we've made it look amazing while doing it. Not to take anything away from men at all, but being a Black female entrepreneur, I think that our group has a lot of sagacious insight. We're very driven when it comes to our mentality and being able to put processes together and make sense of things that sometimes can be challenging and present obstacles. But we always know how to be able to make lemons out of lemonade and be able to turn, peanut butter and jelly into a whole sandwich. We know how to make nothing out of something. And I think our group, we have nothing but contributions that are endless to be able to offer to the world. Our insight, our level of thinking, our mentality, our emotional connection to people, the fact that we do want to achieve great things and be phenomenal and be inspiring and still create a community of women and men that are behind us is powerful. And I think that our group is one of the few to be able to do it the way that we do it, because we are wanting to succeed. We've been stereotyped and we've been ostracized for over many years. We weren't able to vote in the past. We're not able to create the lifestyles that we wanted to. And now we have this opportunity and nothing is going to stop us in our mission. We're going to keep on going and driving for success and teaching others how to do it along the way. So the world needs our voice. They need to hear our story. They need to hear our testimony. And I think we've definitely made a huge impact, and we're going to continue to across all stakeholders on a global level, because our society needs us. And we've proven that, you know, our message is clear, our voice is there, and we've made an incredible impact thus far. And we're going to continue to do that.
You're getting all kinds of cheers in the chats. Yes, Genesis. Thank you for answering that. You mentioned, you know, Black women sometimes, you know, throughout history have been marginalized or sometimes forgotten or not included. Do you have any instances or stories or experiences where you felt like that happened to you? And if so, what was that? What was that incident, and what impact did it have?
Honestly, I would say that's my life every day. I don't think you mentioned this, but I started off as a single mother, and my 6-year-old son Noah has special needs. So for me in my career, many people ask all the time, how are you able to have all these businesses and have a 6-year-old son with special needs and balance his life? I don't have a specific answer for you. That's just my makeup. I wasn't taught to do that. I wasn't guided into anything or had any kind of special lesson plan or a database of how to do it. It's just my innate natural thing. I just have like a great, you know, strong level of what I want to do. I'm very big when it comes to being ambitious, and there are certain goals I want to achieve. And in my opinion, I'm just getting started, but I don't let things stop me or let obstacles defeat me or cause me to break down or not be able to achieve my goals. Any challenge that I've had, any obstacle that I've faced, has only prepared me to be greater and to be able to share that testimony, that insight with someone else who needs it. Women have struggled for years with different things, but I just feel that, you know, we don't have to put ourselves in a position where we can't do it or we have to be limited because of what our minority group looks like or because of what our gender is. That doesn't mean anything. It's about what's here and what you can bring to the table. And in our group, we have so much knowledge. We have so much insight. We're so powerful. We're so strong. We don't let things defeat us. We don't weep and cry when things get us down. We just keep on going time and time again. And I think the world needs us because we've shown and proven that we can do it, and nothing is going to stop us in our mission to achieve all of our heart's desires and be able to still be able to give back and be leaders and powerful, strong women in the process of that as well.
I love it. I love all of that. And it's so true. I'm going to move on to the next question, guys. And this question is going to be for Damien and Genesis. And Damien, I'm going to start with you. What advice would you give to others who are considering, just starting, or experiencing challenges being in entrepreneurship?
That's a good question. I think that learning and growth happens through difficulty. So, for example, a business plan does not make you a business person. Sometimes when starting business, people say, oh, my 30-page business plan. I don't have a business. I didn't sit and write 30 pages because many people that write those 20 or 30 pages, they never really do nothing anyway. My business plan is here. So the strength is in your uniqueness, okay? The worst thing that you can do as a business person is to try to emulate or copy someone else, because that particular person has a certain fingerprint in their life as well as in business. So my thing is, whoever I am, I operate in my personal uniqueness, in my strength, right? To galvanize other individuals without following people. It's like in a weight room. In a weight room, there's something called the negative. And the negative, just like a pitcher, you use the negative to develop. When you press the bench press up off you and you're struggling on the way down, that's where the strength comes in. Same thing with the pitcher, they use the negatives to develop. So I always tell people when I'm consulting them in nutrition or in business, I cannot tell you, no matter what book comes out, no matter what anybody tells you, I can't tell you how to be healthy. I can't tell you how to be great. I can't tell you how to do great things in business, because what might have worked for me may not work for you, because I'm an individual and you're an individual. I may be able to inspire you. You may be able to use some things that are blueprint things, like in nutrition. Okay, drinking a lot of water, getting some sunlight, getting rest. Those are blueprint things that, of course, will benefit and impact everybody. But you have to understand that it's not going to be an easy road. And the more mistakes you make, they're not mistakes, they're really learning lessons. Now, they're mistakes if you keep repeating them. Okay. So ideally, the main thing is stay unique in what it is that you're doing and understanding that nobody can tell you how to do business. Nobody can tell you how to, they can't tell you. I don't care how many books come out about it. They can't tell you how to do it. You've got to do it yourself. And the experience is going to be your teacher. And then you could share some with somebody else, but that doesn't mean that they're going to make it by doing what you told them to do, because it's a different time. Things are changing each and every day. And a lot of it has to do with the intensity with which you operate in your respective field, whatever that may be. It's all about energy. Wherever the energy, what is it? Wherever attention flows, energy goes. So how intense do you do what it is that you do? That's another thing. So you can't be upset at the mistakes. This is how you learn. You know, people learn with pain. People learn with different things. So that's my continue to, you'll eventually get it, but you have to continue forward. You can't stop. Stay unique.
That's amazing. And everybody's cheering your responses on in the chat as well. I love that analogy about weightlifting. Definitely fight the negative, and that's where you get your growth. I love that. There's no easy button. There's no cheat code. I love all of that. So thank you for sharing that honesty. I'm going to turn it over to you, Genesis. What advice would you give?
I would say, to be honest, despite what you may see on social media or what you may see, across different media platforms, entrepreneurship is extremely difficult. It's not easy. I'm a full-time entrepreneur. I've had months where I've made $10,000. I've had months where I've made like $200, to be honest. It happens, but you have to be able to keep on going. And really, when it all boils down to it, you have to figure out how you're going to be able to eat and keep a roof over your head. That's what it all boils down to. It's not about what they see on social media. It's not about taking nice pictures and showing that you're a part of this trend or this fad. As Darren says, it's about really knowing how to create a business that's going to sustain, and what you're going to do when that process gets tough, and when you're going to have all these different stakes on your shoulders, and how you're going to be able to navigate through that and get through it, because it's going to happen. I would say constantly identify your purpose and your why, and don't forget it, because when you get lost in the trenches and things get challenging for you, and you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills and even keep something as simple as your cell phone on, you're going to have to figure that out. Is it really worth doing this right now? Can I still do this later? Is this the right time? Was I meant for this? Am I ready for this? Did I move too prematurely? Those are questions that are going to always come up. But if you have something that is a strategic business based upon what you really want to do, and if it's going to be able to drive revenue and momentum for you, you can definitely achieve it. But the business process has to be there. Don't think that you've arrived or you've made it all and you're not a student anymore just because of the fact that you've started a brand. You still need to be able to constantly go back and educate yourself, and always evolve and develop yourself as well. Read books, listen to podcasts, watch other leaders who are in your industry who have achieved great things. Read books, do whatever you possibly can to constantly educate yourself, because things are always changing. It's never the same. Things are always evolving. There's always some new social media platform that's out. There's always some new way or better way of doing things. Keep yourself abreast of that so that you have the most up-to-date information in your industry that's going to speak to what it is that your audience needs and how you can serve them, because that's important. So you can't get in your own way. I would also say definitely manage your time, but give yourself grace. Yes, there are 24 hours in a day. We all have 7 days in a week, but at the same time, you can't compare your story to anybody else's. For those of us who are single parents or who do manage multiple businesses or who are full-time entrepreneurs, but also full-time employees for somebody else's company, your life, your schedule may look a little bit different. So give yourself grace and figure out a plan that's going to work cohesively for you based upon what your goals are and what you want to do. Some people will say, well, I start my days at 5 a.m. and I grind and I don't sleep and this and that, and I don't eat, I don't rest. That may work for them, but your life may look a little bit different when you have 3 kids who are waiting on you to get home, help them do their homework and give them bath time and read to them at night. So again, manage your time in your business process, but also give yourself grace and use mental clarity and discernment for what that picture should look like for you. I would also say, don't compare your journey to anybody else's journey, similar to what Damien said. This is your own pathway that was designed for you. And if you want it that bad, by default, it's going to happen naturally anyway, but you have to make it your own and create your own story and write your own testament. You can't do what somebody else did because they made it look good or because they proved that they could do it. You have to set your own messaging as well. So figure that out and define what your journey looks like and how you can make it yours. And then lastly, I would just say you're going to have to remain tough, tenacious, and have some grit. When you get knocked down, figure out how to get back up 10 times after that. When you shed some tears, wipe them away and get back to the, the playing field, because it's going to happen. It's entrepreneurship. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak. It's not for those that just want a pretty picture of what business ownership looks like. It's knowing everything about that business inside and out, from your taxes to your legal affairs, to your communication issues, to PR stuff, to marketing, to sales, to operations, to staff issues, to HR. It's all of that. And as a business person, you have to be able to figure that out and navigate that so you can be successful and have your business sustainable long-term in your industry.
That was great. Again, in the chat section, everyone is applauding your transparency, especially talking about how difficult it is from month to month, understanding what that income is going to be and how do you prepare for that, understand there are multiple facets to business. Business is not easy. I was in your shoes for quite some time, many years ago, 100% an entrepreneur. And I used to hate weekends and I hated holidays. I thought they were stupid. I'm like, let's work, right? But not everybody is built that way. And having that comfort of a job, it's different than grinding and being an entrepreneur. The other thing I learned, the biggest difference between being someone who has a job and being an entrepreneur is that as an entrepreneur, you get to choose the 80 plus hours a week that you're going to work. It's not easier. And a lot of people think that because you may see me doing something like with my family during the day, it's because I have nothing to do, but you don't see that I'm working from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. or whatever the case may be. So again, like you said, you make it work for how your schedule sees fit, but it is not easy and is not for the faint of heart. So I really appreciate both of you, Damien and Genesis, being completely transparent. So we have about 3 minutes left. I did have a couple more questions, but for the sake of time, I do want to allow for the Business Institute to talk about some of their services, and also for Karen to close out. So I don't think we have time for Q&A from the audience either. So I don't know, I'm going to look for a cue here from Karen. Should I move forward with your section, Karen? And if you're talking, you're on mute.
Yes, let's move forward with the Leadership Hub section.
Okay, so a quick thank you to the panelists, and we're going to move forward with the next section. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, panelists.
Well, that was fantastic. And Damien, you mentioned Delta State. Have you ever been to Cleveland, Mississippi?
Yeah, I used to live in Greenwood, Mississippi. Cleveland was right next to us.
Well, my first business trip after I graduated from Loyola was Cleveland, Mississippi. And I was a Yankee and wasn't treated that well in Cleveland, Mississippi. So I appreciate what your family and you have gone through. And Darren, if you're ever in Sicily, you're welcome to stop at my hometown, Caltagirone.
Dove.
It's near Palermo.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, we'll do it. And Genesis, I didn't forget you. What you were talking about women, I think that's important. And I'm thinking about President Biden with his first address to Congress, and he's going to have 2 women sitting behind him for the first time in history. You got Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and our favorite Vice President Harris. So it shows you what women can do, right? So I want to thank Karen, the Black Alumni Board, all the staff that has worked tonight and has helped get us to where we need to be. We're delighted to co-host these events with the Black Alumni Board. And you saw in the background what I have the pleasure of overseeing. It's 7 research centers and 2 student groups, and we're interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary where we go across schools at Loyola, but we also work with 200 Jesuit universities in the world. So if we ever have to do something in a certain region of the world, we got a connection there. Maybe the only place we don't have the connection is North Korea. Okay, everywhere else we should be able to get into. Talking a little bit about entrepreneurship, and I get excited talking about innovation and entrepreneurship. We have faculty and students who work on startup projects, and that group is through Incubate, it's called. We also have what's called an Ignite Lab, which is for startups, and we work with 1871 here. And if you're from Chicago, you would know what 1871 is. I'm also I'm on a committee with Mayor Lightfoot, and they want to talk to us about entrepreneurship and innovation, and how do we get companies from coast to coast to come to Chicago. In fact, I have a call with her staff tomorrow. So net, if anyone is interested in doing more as far as innovation and entrepreneurship, let me know. Be happy to work with all of you or your contacts. I know we can make a difference. And I'm going to read a proverb that I'm sure the Black alumni has heard me say before, but I have it in my home and I read it quite often. And the proverb is African, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So I think being connected with each other, we can make things happen. I heard so many wonderful things, and to me, trust is high on the list. Whenever I'm looking to do business with somebody or to hire somebody, I care about trust. If it's an employee, we can teach the skills, but trust, you either have it or you don't. And I think all of the panelists understand, and the Black Alumni Board understand respect. We need respect. We have to respect that person. They have to respect us. If not, I'm not sure if I want them in my inner circle. So that's another important thing. I think that you were touching on that tonight. So I have one more quote before I turn it back to Karen. And the quote is from Walt Disney. And he said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. So with that quote, I'll turn it back to Karen Fleshman. Thank you very much for giving me the chance.
Thank you so much, John. That was amazing to hear about some of the great things that you have going on. I sincerely want to thank the panel. I've actually been an entrepreneur for 10 years, and I learned so much from you guys tonight. From you all tonight, it's been amazing to hear your journeys and to hear your insight. Just very, very powerful. Next, what I'd like to do is to also thank Rocky as the moderator. Rocky, you did an amazing job moderating the event tonight. You know, we learned as much from the panelists as we did from you as well. So thank you so much for that. Next, what I'd like to do in closing is to, to tell you to save the date, June the 16th. We are going to have Dr. Corey Mitchell, and the title of his event is Detoxing from the Poison of Systemic Racism. And Dr. Mitchell is going to discuss how the entire U.S. ecosystem how the entire U.S. ecosystem needs to be detoxed from the poison of systemic racism, just like the title says here. So please save the date for that, and we look forward to seeing you there as well. Next, I'd like to say, if you're interested in getting involved in any board activities, if you want to be a speaker for the Black Light Speaker Series, we would love to highlight you. We also have committee member opportunities, in our various committees. And if you're interested, please send us an email at our Gmail account. And then finally, I want to thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I'm sure you found this as insightful as I did. It has been an incredible education for all of us, and we really appreciate the panelists and Rocky for the amazing job that they've done in terms of sharing their experience and their in-depth wisdom, not just about being an entrepreneur, but just being successful in life. So we want to thank everyone for that. With that, I want to thank you again for joining us, and please join us on June the 16th for our next Black Light Speaker Series event. And thank you all as well for staying over time. We really appreciate it. Have a good evening.